Making a sequel is no easy feat, especially when it isn't a real sequel and you have a comic book and movie to pull from. So, to prep for Watchmen on HBO, we've been rewatching the movie, rereading the comics, and obsessing over the trailers. This is what we know so far. Damon Lindelof has been very clear that this isn't a recreation, a reproduction, a reboot. It's a little bit more of a remix. So how do we feel about that? I mean, that's a lot of words that start with R-E.
There's a lot of alliteration.
Yes, but I think it's the smartest thing they could do.
Agree.
Don't try to remake something. Don't try to recreate perfection out of the graphic novel.
No.
Do something new, just in the spirit of the original.
Yeah, I think that's some advice that everyone should be taking right now.
Indeed.
Oh!
I don't know who that was directed towards, but whoever it was, burn.
They know.
You know who you are.
The comics are canon, and the show isn't going to touch, sounds like, any of it. The comics are the history in this universe. This TV series takes place 30 years after previous Watchmen stories end. So, I mean, I think that's kind of great, because it's like there's been enough time, the world is different, the world has changed. So they're serious when they say they're not touching that. It's crystallized in history.
Yeah.
I think it also is fair and honoring to the fans of like that original like origin story to be able to say, look, man, this was good the way it was. If you agree with it or not, this is where we stand. If we're gonna make a new story, let's literally dissect ourselves from the origin story and just use it as a guideline. It's great.
Yeah, I agree. And for this version, the cultural commentary is updated to be a little more,
Yeah, so it's actually going to be dealing with a little bit of more of the social political stuff that we're dealing with now, this concept of race versus relationship with police versus people of particularly African-American descent, but also overall people of color and communities that are dealing with these issues, which some people like, some people don't like, but I think it's, it's reflective.
Yeah, and I feel like Watchmen has always been relevant. Like it's always had a voice and it's made cultural commentary, so why wouldn't we update it to and by we I mean the people who made it.
Not us specifically.
I had nothing to do with it, but yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense.
But I think it is interesting because one of the things about Watchmen, the graphic novel, is that it was very much a commentary on comic books, right?
Yeah,
and
true.
on comic book heroes. And maybe some of the, political stuff that was going on at the time, whereas I would put that more in the V for Vendetta world with Alan Moore. But so how is this, if at all, going to comment on the state of superhero stories now? That's a big question that I have going in.
Well, I think that's really interesting, particularly when you look at the concept that superheroes do kind of reflect what we feel are these values that we hold as a culture within the zeitgeist, right? Like, what do we value? What do we not value? What are the issues we deal with every day?
What's heroism? What's bad?
Yeah, and I think that even though it's a commentary on comics and the original, comics and the stories that we tell, fiction, reflects our culture, what we honor and what we don't honor. So I think, is it gonna be more direct? Is it not gonna be direct? I think I have the same, kind of along the same lines as your question.
Yeah. Okay, so if you blink, you'll miss it, but Robert Redford is president, which is another great way to link this Watchmen to the comics and movies. Redforations are a thing now.
Wow, that is a loaded joke.
Redforations.
Are they really?
Yeah.
Wow, that is a loaded thing that they wrote. Not you, I'm saying, like,
No.
I'm not going to touch that one.
No.
we did.
No, like no one asked for it, but no.
Yeah.
I'm going to give it a chance, but
that's,
this
honestly,
not.
let's just say that this is an indication that this show is going to be taking chances. It's going to be saying some provocative things.
Risks will be taken.
Yeah,
Shots will be fired.
I think there are going to be a lot of takes.
Or have the shots already been fired?
It's going to be.
They've already been fired.
It's going to be a hot take machine.
It's going to be a hot take
machine. You know how I love a good hot take, Adam.
I know. I've heard that.
I wonder how much.
How do you like your takes? Hot.
Typing hot.
Yeah.
I wonder how much of an impact it will have beyond fans, though. Like, are people going to be able to is this a show people are going to be able to tune into and be like, Redforations, that means something to me? I have faith in the show.
Honestly, that is part of why it's going to be in the larger cultural conversation, because reparations and things of that nature are part of the political discussion now.
Yeah. What do we definitely want to see?
Can I tell you something I want to see that's a thing I don't want to see?
Per favore.
Which is, I guess, I want to see violence treated with thought and not glorified. One of the issues that I had with the Watchmen movie was that I felt like it took some of the scenes that were in the comic that were made to show you how bananas it is to have mass vigilantes beating people up, and they were played as very cool. And I think that this show could have a lot to say about our society's look and how we approach violence. And I think I would like to see them approach that sensitively and thoughtfully, and not in a way that glorifies it.
It's like, oh, cool.
Yeah,
the camera spun around that guy's head getting kicked off.
Exactly. Yeah. Because I think that was one of the things I loved about the Watchmen comic, is it kind of examined comic book violence, and I think in a very sensitive way. And I think it would be great to see them do that on TV.
That's a good. That's a great want.
I like it. Along the same lines, cultural. I do. I would love a tea. No, seriously. I think along the same lines, cultural commentary. And I think that, comes with this idea of what does it look like with the socio-political reflections of what we are looking at as a culture right now. That's why these stories can be so cool, is that they are relatable and people can see themselves in it. So I'm hoping to see that, particularly with this addition of Regina King, who is just amazing.
Yeah.
And
coming up.
I was gonna say, if there's gonna have to be awesome, excitingly shot ass kicking in it, I hope it's done by Regina King.
Yeah.
That's the only acceptable answer.
I think we'll get some.
Yeah.
I agree. I think that a lot of times films try and bite off some of these issues, and it's hard to do plot plus action plus major world issues, and maybe we'll get it explored a little bit more in depth in that HBO kind of highbrow way,
We are counting on you, HBO.
We're counting on you, HBO. So what, I
already said I don't.
Yeah, what don't we want? But I feel like,
I kind of got into that.
Don't want that violence.
I think also a attempt to basically recreate the stuff from the graphic novel.
You don't want.
I don't want that.
Yeah.
Maybe, it's your source, it's the spirit of the thing, but don't try to do it again.
Yeah.
Graphic novel was made as a graphic novel for a reason. Doesn't work necessarily directly translated to live action. Be your own thing.
Be your own
Watchmen.
thing.
Do your thing.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Whatever we get, this is really going to be the continuing of the story in a world with characters that we like. Exactly what a sequel should be. So, you know what, HBO, just like The Watchmen, we are watching you.
We are watching The Watchmen. Yeah. And now it doesn't premiere until October 20th, at least to the public, but some of you will be lucky enough to see the debut ahead of time at New York Comic Con on October 4th. And if you can't make it to New York Comic Con, don't worry. We'll be breaking it down on Con After Dark after the debut, so tune in at midnight on Sci-Fi.